Hello and welcome. So, this is the 201 of Proactive Monitoring and Performance Insights. Welcome. If you were here before, I hope you guys have caught on to the blog that we had, as well as some of the check boxes that we have as a checklist to get started on some of the foundations. Um, Hello, everyone. I see you guys in the chat and welcome. So today we're going to talk about optimization and some of the tools and kind of some tips and tricks of how we can actually get into some of that foundational data of which that we had there. And so I wanted to kind of slide in here. If you don't know me, my name is Destiny Bertucci. I've been in this space for over 22 years. And when I say space, I'm a network engineer, cybersecurity as well. But I've also been in IT monitoring and management for a very long time, over 22 years. So it's kind of crazy how they go hand in hand, right? I am a major geek. I loved learning things constantly. I'm in college now. I'll probably always be in school. That's kind of my dreamland. I love learning new things and I love teaching them and as well as working with you all to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're aware of some of the things that are being asked of us in our daily tasks, right? And so one of the things that I really want to come across here is be helpful. And again, this is educational. I'm not like trying to sell things that down your throat or to do anything. This is essential for anybody that's doing monitoring and management. And that's how I live and breathe, right? Like I don't care what tool you're using. I want you to be doing these things. Now, just so happens I'm going to be showing you a little bit of the Domotz of which is going to be across there. But again, you can do these with your tools, and I want you to be able to implement these within your tools as well. All right, so kind of the agenda. I'm going to recap over the 101 foundations, just a short recap in case you were just here, but if you weren't, just so you kind of understand where we're building a basis off of. And then we're going to talk about beyond just the up down of what's going on when we're monitoring and managing. And then frameworks and best practices, NMS in action, as well as kind of what's next in the 301 when we get into automation, as well as a Q&A section, which last time was super exciting. I love the questions. I had several in email as well as LinkedIn. And I feel like I got back to everybody. If I didn't, please let me know and bubble it up. I was so excited to have some of these conversations with you on just framework, on foundations, how to do it. I even got to jump on a person's actual implementation and help them out. And that's what I want to do. I want to help you understand where you're at in your monitoring, and I want you to become confident in it so that we can relay these as either an MSP voice to a customer of which you're providing services to, or internal IT so that you can actually discuss this with your directors, your direct reports, and help everybody to be able to use the tools that you're paying for, as well as how to get that value out of them. I'm going to try to keep this into the 40-minute mark. Last time I got 38 minutes, so I was pretty stoked. I'm going to try to keep this into the 38 mark, like I said, into 38 minutes to 40 minutes, because I want to really give that Q&A time to breathe and time to kind of grow a little bit, because I think that's where some of the real concerns and questions come in, because they're valid. I mean, I've had people say, like, I'm not able to get some of these reports and understand how to talk to my direct report. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to be relaying some of this information. These are the questions that I want to help you with. So I actually kind of reevaluated a little bit of this by some of the feedback from the Q&A on the 101, and we put that into the blog as well as the checklist. Like I said, if you didn't get it, you can check it out again. But for a recap, for those that weren't here, we talked about the importance of visibility and how it needs to be dynamic. We need to be able to constantly go over and grow with our networks and understand our networks. And we can't do that if we don't know what we don't know, right? It's like if I have something middleman attacks, if I have devices that weren't supposed to be there or supposed to be, offboarded already. What if I have something that's on the wrong iOS or OS version or things of this nature? These are things that an actual dynamic discovery are going to help you to relate. As we start providing more unlocking abilities to these devices, adding SNMP sensors, adding more SNMP data, which that's how you're going to unlock a device. You can do it with CLI calls, scripting, anything that you're gathering more intel for. You need to understand what you had before we get to how we start to optimize it, and then how do we actually automate that. So you have to start with a strong foundation. And so that's what this recap is kind of going over. We helped you to understand, like, what are some of those first beginning things to make sure you understand how do you actually work with the data that you're having, and then prevention. Once we start to understand the data, Then we know how to be proactive in the data. We stop the firefighting, right? You're never going to 100% stop firefighting, but you can darn sure get close, right? And you can do that by living and breathing in your data and understanding the life of that actual network of which that you are being told to monitor and manage. And that helps you to impact your users because they're going to have more uptime. You're able to do things like, hey, guess what? We're on this. We know this is happening, but you can use that tool to send another email to them to let them know that you're on it. So there's plenty of ways that we can be proactive in awareness, as well as how do I foundationally look at this? And then efficiency. We're not chasing down what could be a potential problem. We're seeing where the problems are. We're using our alerting. We're using our visibility. So these are all layers that we're that get us to a better driven monitoring tool as well as management and how we can actually use integrations and further, be more efficient in our daily tasks as well as our daily jobs. So that was kind of what we were going over in the foundations of the recap. So we had to set that layer of foundation that's there. We had to be able to understand what's there and why. And then that helps us to be more efficient so that now we can apply more optimization and how do we actually live within our monitoring tool so that we can provide a better tomorrow for ourselves as well as for those that are expecting our actual employment of what we're supposed to be doing to maintain a network that's up there. So the basics, right? So core components, acquisition of data is vital. So you can go out and get an ICMP, which I'm sure that most of you guys know. If you don't, it's a ping. Hey, are you there? That's it. That's all it's asking, right? Like it responded. All right. So that's one layer, right? Like that's literally the first layer. Like, are you there? Are you not? That's great. I need insights. I need to understand the statistics and the health of these devices. And to do that, I have to have better acquisition of my data. And that usually starts in most of your NMS tools as SNMP data. I have been in this industry for 22 years, as you heard me say before, and every day that I have been in this industry, I have heard, well, SNMP is a way of the past and we're going to something else. Well, I haven't seen it greatly done, right? There is some that do APIs, which is fantastic, and you see like a transition into APIs. I think we should absolutely get to APIs and be able to pull some of that data that comes across there. There's still CLI information that I can get from a script, like ACE counts versus ACL counts. Never could really get that really well with an SNMP, but I can darn sure script it from a device and be able to pull that. Why are ACE counts important? Because it's going to send you over a threshold. It can cost you more money as well, right? Like these are things that we just need to be aware of with our devices. So acquisition of data is something that's vital that's going to make you actually see your health of your network, understand what you're pulling, and actually get kind of like that comprehensive device health checklist. Okay? And that's something that I think is very vital that you need to know that. Because if I just know that it's up down, that's one layer. That's still great visibility of what should I have in there. But how's it functioning? Like, is it fixing to break down? Is it riding really hot? Is this a time that I can see that my memory is full, my CPU is full, storage is full, this thing is, like, just running hot as could be? Can I load balance it? Is this the time to bring in more hardware? Is this the conversation that I need to prepare a customer for? Is this a conversation I need to prepare my team for so that I can be better available? Because if something goes completely down, you're out, right? And so it's like, your monitoring tools help you to have those conversations for load balancing, how the network is functioning, and you get that through your statistics. And again, that's outside of just knowing it's there. So we have to make sure that we're getting that acquisition good. Frequency of polling. So make sure that you understand how you're getting pulled. Make sure how your vendor wants to be pulled. What is their industry standard for how they want to be pulled? How many times in an hour? How many times in 10 minutes? Like what are these things? ICMP, it's like usually is quicker because that's a health, that's your heartbeat. That's like, are you up? Are you down? Statistical information, depending on your device, may not even update until after 5 minutes. You can skew numbers. There's a thing called rolling data. SNMP takes up resources. I'm only going to update you, and there is some Cisco devices too that do rolling data every 5 minutes. So if I'm pulling this every 30 seconds, well, that's a lot of resources on the collector to be able to go out there and pull that. But that is also skewing your number because it's giving you every 30 seconds the same value until it changes. So these are just things to be aware of, right? Like it's things that you need to understand. How does it work? How does it actually come through there? And then you have thresholds. So this is when I'm seeing the data, I'm coming across everything of which that is within there, and now I'm starting to understand how this device is working. I can look over the past 7 days. I can look over some of these information of which that I'm seeing. Where did I see a problem? Did I see a spike? Did I define the spike? If you're in 101, right? Like we have to define the problems, right? Did I define the spike? If I did not, should I be aware of it the next time faster? Right? Because maybe it's at 15 and I left things at 80, 90, which we shouldn't be doing. And it's one of those things where I need to start adjusting that threshold down so I can be aware of it until I can define it and then have a protocol for what I need to do to fix that issue. And then I can adjust my alert after. Reset of conditions. When do you want an alert to go away? This is so crucial for you because if it's flapping, you're going to get alerts constantly, right? You already know there's a problem. You're creating noise and distraction. So if it is like something is flapping down, a BGP neighbor is flapping, something like this is flapping and you're getting these alerts, maybe we should look at the reset or maybe you should look at what actually resets that condition. Maybe it's after 5 minutes. Maybe it's after X events happen. Maybe it's after this. But then that way, when you truly reset it, you're resetting it to where if it went off again, you know that it's an escalation of a problem and not an existing. So these are some of the things that you can do with resets and response. So automated actions, notifications, things like this, when is it happening? What are you doing? How do you use reporting? How do we be able to actually say, "Hey, we had an outage here. We understood what it is. This is what I'm going to do that I set up to prevent this because we seen what the holistic view was, because we seen everything. Now we can actually move on and get some more data to be proactive so that we don't have an outage maybe. Maybe at that point we already understand the load balancing that was there. We're already implementing a fix. We know what caused the issue. We also know what fixed it in the moment if we don't have a hardware or a software or something that may be requiring maintenance, but you are aware of it so that you can get onto it faster and that response time drops, making you more efficient. So beyond the basics, so proactive monitoring will extend far beyond the up down as we'd said before. So let's kind of dive in here. So again, you don't have to use all the tools which that we're telling you to use, things like that. This is just awareness for your performance and everything that you're doing. Performance monitoring is your number one thing that you're going to have to be able to understand, or you have no idea how your performance is doing on the network that you design, maintain, or implement. So that's your health statistics. That's that data acquisition. How do I understand it? How do I future forecast, right? Forecast capacity is huge. That helps me be ahead of a problem instead of after the problem and trying to play catch up. I need to be able to see that. And you see that because you're monitoring storage, you're monitoring the CPU, you're monitoring the memory. You are understanding that if there's firmware updates or anything that which that's coming out, how to actually help this, to come forward. How do I actually do something and prove? So when we're going beyond basic monitoring, you need to be able to prove things that either resolve or make things worse. If I have a baseline and then I go out and I update my firmware because it's supposed to drop buffer load or it's supposed to be, do something else of which that's there on memory or CPU, I can prove this was before that happened. This is the statistics after that happened. Did it do what it said it was going to do? That allows you to have better conversations because they're data driven. And I think that's something that we should all think about how to use these tools to prove concepts that you're trying to do internally, as well as to disprove if something was supposed to work and it didn't. Now I have data to go back to my vendor and say, look, you said apples to apples. If I compare this before and after, it was supposed to drop. It has not solved my problem. Here is my data. How do we further investigate this issue and get to a resolution? It helps you in your everyday transactions, not just with your monitoring tools, but with your users, your customers, your vendors. This is how you have those conversations because they're actually data driven. And I think that that's something that we need to look at in our monitoring tools that a lot of people aren't. So then you have traffic and bandwidth analysis. There's plenty of tools of which that are out there that help you to do this. Packet sniffers, Wiresharks. If you are in networking, you better have Wireshark, right? You need to identify some of those that are actually going through there on where to look at. And when you're looking at packet sniffers, you can get into the woods. But what you do with your monitoring tool is you actually look at it and say, "Hey, I have a bandwidth that is actually, spiking, or it's at, it's gigabytes, I have an alert on this. I need to go investigate this interface." You are able to do that with your traffic tools, packet sniffers, find out what's going on, look at your configurations, look at how some of this stuff is actually going across. So this is just some of the things of which that we're able to do. And I'm going to try to fix my video real quick. Okay. And then for WAN connectivity, so multi-site, what's the health? What's the latency? Am I distributed? What am I doing across here? Are we seeing gaps? Are we seeing way more people here than we are over here? Like there's things that we need to do. Like what's behind everything that we have? Where are our critical services? Where are some of the things that we need to actually investigate and have a look into? Because if we know that if a device goes down, what's underneath it, that allows me to better prepare my messaging to say, "Hey, this service is interrupted. This service needs more capacity over here. We need to be able to look at this." During the day, I'm noticing a significant traffic uptick at this time. We need to have and I notice that there's a database that maybe sales uses, or there's a database that somebody is pulling reports from. This is something that I can address and I can actually see and have that conversation. Or and I've seen this I don't know how many times where somebody accidentally is doing backups during the day versus at night, only because the AM PM, right? Like this, but this can cause a significant lag. This can create a problem with your bottlenecking during the day when people are actually using the network and getting defined. These are things that we just have to be aware of that we can see. And then, of course, any IP address management. You need to understand the conflict. You need to be able to understand how things are working. You need to be able to see that quickly because it's little things that accidentally can be done by human. But that, even if you're setting up orchestration, you can make a mistake in orchestration. You can make a mistake. It's okay. But defining those mistakes and seeing them faster is what's going to allow you to learn, grow, and prosper. And that's how we're going to be able to get across some of those. All right. And so then I'm going to kind of go into the DART framework. If you've heard of the DART framework, cool. You can like give me a shout out or anything. And if you haven't, then cool. I hope you're able to learn some of this. So after we've done some of our proven foundational work and done everything that's there, we need to not set it and forget it. I know that's like an old saying, but seriously, don't set it and forget it. Your monitoring tool moves around and changes just as much as your network ideas, right? And assumptions can change. So one of the things that you do, you need something that's going to be constantly discovering. Understand what's being discovered, right? Like I need to be aware what's new on this network that I wasn't aware of. What are some of the things of which that this device could present a challenge for or help with? Like, these are some of the things that I need to be able to understand. And then I need to go over my actual alerting. Is my thresholds correct? Is there something that's happened that I need to readjust my thresholds? If I just had a deployment of different devices of which that came out, if I had firmware updates that came out, if I've added on different protocols, if I'm doing something different and I know this, I need to go back and adjust and make sure that I am still within my threshold ranges of which that I need to be in. I need to make sure that I have the proper alerts. Is there something else of which that I need to look at? And I need to massage that and actually understand the data that's coming in so that I am more proactive on this. And then that allows me to have better remediation. I need to be able to understand what the response is. I know a lot of people who use their ticketing system to help the tiered techs that they go to because it already has automatically, because of this alert, I understand it. I am going to be able to then actually say, I'm going to remediate this by doing this knowledge base. I'm going to remediate this because I understand that this service needs to be restarted. I can put this into that alert because I've defined the problem. What is the first, second step of which that you should do? Now, this helps you not only onboard your technicians, but this also makes sure that, hey, that didn't work. Something needs to be looked at that's a little bit different. I can look at it holistically, and then I can actually start making better decisions. This is the remediation process. Now you can kind of see why this is an ongoing and not just a straight track. We have to be able to look at this. We need to be able to be more efficient and use the tool to help you with the efficiency. And then your troubleshooting. This needs to be able to show you what the troubleshooting pathways are. How did we know the remediation? What are we troubleshooting? Do we have a long-term goal or a short-term goal of this issue of which is coming across there? Maybe it's a new alert that we have not defined that we're able to say that something went wrong. We had a down alert, but then when we started looking at it, it was actually because it was, over 99% of CPU, the memory was high. It wasn't able to respond in SNMP because SNMP will not respond if it's like on the verge of collapse, right? Because that's like an afterthought. It has to save itself first, right? So it's like, I'm gonna save myself. I'm gonna try to do everything I can. I'm really, really having a problem here. You're going to be able to see that in an alert. Now you can troubleshoot that, right? Because what made it? It's not just that the alert went off and said my CPU is high. What made it change? That's what we have to look at and we have to really dive into. And that allows you to pinpoint in the haystack where's the problem, right? And so that's how we troubleshoot. So Dart framework is something that is ongoing. And you need to be able to express this as well with technicians that are frontline dealing with things that they're like, hey, I'm getting tickets in that we weren't alerted on. That's a conversation. That's a conversation that's going to help improve your productivity. That's a conversation that's going to help your efficiency as well as maintain the service level agreements you have for the network itself. This is how those all go across. And I hear a lot of people who have told me, they're like, I just monitoring is not my job, right? This was handed to me. I don't know how to start or what I can actually do to make it to where my techs will use it because they're in the trenches, they're doing things. We got to get them out of that mode. We have to actually spend some time within our monitoring solutions and we need to make sure we're discovering correctly. We discover and we're able to see what we're wanting to do. What are your industry standards that you're wanting to do within your company? What are your standard protocols of alerting that you're needing to define? Base that off of what you're being, what actually affects you. Is it bandwidth? Is it I don't want to get a call because somebody's video is lagging because, somebody's doing a backup during the day. Like, what do you need to monitor that's going to be across there? And then you need to make sure that your alerting is going to be able to be there on the thresholds. We need to make sure that we understand what can we do in remediation. How do we help the techs to understand what that remediation is for that alert? Because alerts should be actionable. I do not want alerts that are informational to come to my email or to be able to wake me up in the middle of the night when it's not an actionable alert. When you have too many alerts of which that are going out there that are just informational or out of the box that were never adjusted, the real alert gets lost. And I think that's something that a lot of people kind of disregard because they're like, oh, yeah, we're alerting on everything. Don't worry about it. But is that what you need to do? Is it an actionable alert? Is it helping you solve a problem? Is it being proactive enough for you? Or is it just telling you that something changed that really doesn't matter? And that's something that, can be informational I can look at and we can schedule a call to look at that, like, with the team. It's not actionable. So if it's not, I don't want the alert. And if it's actionable, that means I'm remediating something. There's something of which that I can take action on. And then it's what is the troubleshooting if we do not have something in place or if we know that there's a problem, how do I readjust that troubleshooting to put it right back into my alerting to a remediation and to solve these problems. That is how we go deeper into our actual monitoring. So I want to ask you a question. What's your biggest source of alert noise? And I'll let you guys fill in the comments of which that's coming across here. But what is your biggest source of alert noise? And maybe you don't have any and you're lucky because you're already in your alerts, but I would be curious to hear from you if you have any, like, ugh, these alerts are out of control or ugh, this one right here is not very helpful. Like just let me know within the chat and that'll be cool. And then what I wanna do is when we get into the best practices, my users good one, Matt. My users, right? And so that's something to know, right? Like, we need to be actually proactive, right? So it's like, I want to be able to be aware of a problem before it happens, right? Like, I don't want my user calling me and telling me that there's a problem. What I want to happen is I want to be able to say, "Hey, guess what? I know there's a problem, and when that email hit my text, I can send another email immediately out with that to say, "We're on this problem if you may be experiencing problems here," right? Use your tool. It's able to actually help you to do this and to define it. So I'm gonna kinda walk you through something here, and I'm gonna make sure this works really well. Excuse my voice. I actually have been under the weather, so I apologize for that. I'm gonna show you here. So something that I want to show you is when we're able to actually see our network, we can understand that things are behind it, right? This is that parent-child type relationship that we need to kind of to understand. When we understand that there's bottlenecks, right? Like something that happens a lot of the time is people are like, ugh, like, I'm getting lag, I'm getting this. I want to look at these interfaces. I want to see something in which it's coming across here. I need to be able to see my information clearly what's affected. Well, what if somebody is trying to run a report and they're getting a timeout, they're doing this and they're having a really bad problem and you don't understand and you're like, "Well, where are you at?" And you're like, "Hey, you know what? This device is down and I can see that you're actually behind here." That's a child parent. Like, I should be able to know that. In my alert, I should be able to say this. When I'm integrating with tools like ConnectWise or Huda or anything in which it's coming across there, this is the information from the topology that you're able to understand. This is also information that is quickly seen that helps you get a grasp on your environment. I can know immediately if somebody is calling and saying they're having a problem, and I can look at my topology because I've understood it and I did this in foundations, right? I can say, oh, they're down something that, or they're not able to access that because it's down. That file server is behind this because it's down. That should be known. Those are things that you can implement within a ticket of your alerting when you define this. So I have to stay in my monitoring and management tool so that I understand the relationships so that when I'm defining my actual alerts, I'm able to make these proactive for myself. I'm also able to make this proactive to alert somebody in those areas. If there is somebody that is over the database server that is behind this one here, that alert should be able to go out to that data person and say, hey, you may be experiencing some problems right now. This is down. We're on it, you know, let me know if you have problems after we alleviate this alert. That's a communication track that is happening automatically behind the doors because you understood your tool. You are setting up alerts to work for you and not actually against you. So those are some of the things that are going to help you. And then something else that I really enjoy is that, download this. Download your topology. I know people that use this all the time. They save the SVG file, they open it up, and they're able to use it in multiple different tools, but also they're able to put this into AI. What is this structure? What is missing? Hey, if something is down here, like what's going on? I now have my own database that I'm teaching my learning language model per site. These are very important tools that we can use with our monitoring system that I feel like some people might, not be aware of. So this is something that I wanted to kind of dive into. Also, what I wanted to look at is we give you a report when you have your alerts and everything of which that are set up. You need to be able to look at your alerts and you need to be able to actually, you know, use them correctly. We have multiple ways of ticketing systems that also have automation that's allowed that you can also dive into. And this is something that allows you to be more communicative, to be better understanding because I can pull this information and use this in AI and say what is happening on my network. What actually is happening right now. I can configure my alert digest, which is huge for me because that allows me to then get a report of which that I want to do, and I can do that once a day, or I can do that on a time window every 24 hours, something of which that I'm wanting to do. Let me know what those alerts were, because then what I do is I take that report, and this is me. Again, you can have tools that can do this for you, but something that I've really been leaning into is, as we know, AI is able to do pattern recognition really well. It's able to understand this. Machine learning is a thing, right? I can take Chat GPT for an example, and I can put my Domotz report into it, and I can say, "Hey, how do I make my monitoring better and improve performance on my network?" It takes that report, it will then tell you like, "Hey, did you know that this one was stable? This one was at 99.9. These ones are actually has disconnects. This is kind of a problem. These are your ticket areas. This is where your packet loss is at. This is where you had different devices of which that came in. These are partially configured. Did you know you didn't have SSH on here right now so we could actually get more information?" Use tools, especially if you're new to monitoring, to help you see how to make a better proactive monitoring as well as a better network that works for you and not against you. You can ask it how to better set up, alerting messaging so that it is reactive or not reactive, but proactive for you. These are tools that I like to use. Like, if you've ever followed me, I like to band-aid things, and I'm like, "Oh, I can fix this. I can understand, like, what's going on here." This is why I want to help us all have a base level of understanding of how do we get to a better situation within our actual network monitoring environments. And when you're looking at your devices and say there's a problem, like you're starting to see latency go up or you're starting to see something of which that's going through there, you can go into devices and then you can actually VPN to them. You can remote into them, find out cause, get the events, use this information to help you pinpoint the problems of which that are coming through there. But again, you can't don't see this if you don't have the right acquisition of data, right? Like we have to make sure that we have our SNMP enabled on these devices to be able to understand them holistically. We also need to make sure if it's a CLI component for our scripts that we're able to get into there, we need to be able to make sure that we have remote access to these devices. This is all a way that you're able to become aware of your surrounding and your environment so that you're breathing it, you're understanding it, and it's something of which that is coming true to you in fruition of how you actually understand it. So, when we go back into this, let me make sure I'm presenting. So, I seen somebody that noticed the new topology. Yes, we are working on topology, so if you guys have questions on topology or some really cool use cases, please hit us up. Let us know. We are actively doing that. We're listening to you, and we're trying to gather as much information that helps you to be able to understand that environment that of which that you're either using for another user or for yourself. So please definitely let us know some of that information of which it's there. So for effective monitoring, we want to establish those normal baselines. You have to understand them. You got to let it run for at least a week, if not 2 weeks. I like 2 weeks. I like 2 weeks of running so I can have a better understanding. I like to understand holidays too. If there's holidays of which that are coming around, or if there is an audit of which that's coming through, things like this. These are some of the things that I want to make sure that I'm aware of so that I can actually validate. Maybe I need to do some adjustments because there's a major situation in which is happening. We're doing a data transition. We're doing a mirroring effect. We're doing something that's new here. I need to be able to work with that, and I can do that by understanding. I need to have an accurate inventory. I need to make sure that it's constantly discovering out there. I need to be able to use a topology as a way of first line actual awareness of what could be potentially affected by an outage, by too much bandwidth that's at its max load. I need to understand this information and I can use the topology to help me to visualize that. I can use that to help me to visualize and maintain my alerts to make sure that they are correct. So I can prevent that alert flapping, like we've talked about, what actually means something that should be reset, what does not mean that it should be reset. I need escalation procedures. I need to be able to understand who needs what alerts where, right? I need to also understand communication pathways. I need to be able to use my alerts to communicate not only that there's a problem, but that we are working on it and that we will let you know when it is resolved. Use the reset alerts and things like that to actually say it's resolved. That's an automation flow which that we can get into. When we understand the parent-child dependencies, we're able to very quickly understand that if this switch goes out, there's a lot of services that are critical behind this that we need to be able to convey and communicate that we are getting this online as fast as possible. These are all things that your monitoring tool allows you to do that makes you proactive, makes you know that you understand the information in which that you're in, and allows your users as well as your techs to immediately be able to be in a confident place to be able to address these situations and understand that it's being addressed. So it's a two parts to that. And then you need to create dashboards and application centric views. Like what is affected? You can go into monitoring dashboards of any tool, and you need to be able to understand like what could be affected if this goes down, right? And if it does, I need to be able to have that communication path and the right people, right, to be able to do this. If I have a firewall team and I'm sending a firewall alert to the wrong team, that is time wasted. If I know who actually has the rights to understand the alert, possibly make a configuration change on the alert because of the alert, that is who that alert needs to go to. Okay? I need to be able to have these alerts to work for my technicians, not noise of which that can go across there. And so all of this conveyed together, this is how we actually accomplish that. So these are the best practices. Once you get the foundation in there, now we need to actually get into our alerts and make things proactive. If you're curious about things on your SNMP sensors or things like, deeper dive into the data that you're wanting to do but you can't do that until you have a strong foundation, right? Then you need to start really working with it. Add some SSH credentials. Make sure your SNMP is there so that you're seeing the statistics that are helping you in your daily tasks. Start having a little bit of awareness with your technicians on using the tool. Hey, that alert that came out last week, I noticed that nobody really jumped on that until like 10 minutes later. What can I do to make this better for you to be able to showcase this alert so that this tool is helping you and you're able to open it up in there and know what we need to do? And sometimes they're like, "Hey, you know what? My email is not the place that we use as a company to actually get that alert. Can I get this in Slack and like a dedicated channel or something that's coming across here?" Absolutely. Like, work with the team where they want to be working at so that this isn't a hindrance. It's something that they collaborate on, and it's something that they want to use because they understand how it can help them in their daily tasks. So I think that's something that we should all be looking at. So bringing it together, discover, ongoing, alerts, actionable only. Make sure you have actionable alerts. Reporting is different than alerts, right? You can absolutely use your reports. Use an AI tool to help you with those reports so that you understand them. Remediation, make sure that you understand how to respond, right? Respawn. Is there things that you can do within the tools of which that you have that can respond for you and be validated because the alert would then reset it accurately? So these are the things how they go across. Integration, use your PSA ticketing, use workflow automation. I wanna talk a little bit about observability too, because when we talk about observability tools of which that are out there, you want a best in breed tool. Make sure that you're not feeding it junk, right? Like, that's something that we all know. If you give it junk, it's gonna proceed with it's gonna react to junk information because the data is not clear. Understand that your alerts are actionable. That is going to help your observability platform 10,000%. Because if they're not actionable, you're feeding it things that can't be controlled, right? That are undefined. And so if it's not defined, you shouldn't have the alert that which it's going to be there. You can have an informational alert of which is telling you things of which could come across there, but you need to be able to have it an actionable alert. So that way, when you use observability, it's understanding where the problems are that are significant that has to cause a reaction. And then that is how we actually, pull everything together. And there's several integrations of which that we have in your platforms, as you can see from here, that I think that you all should be aware of. Because if you're using these tools, use them together because they're going to make you a better monitor as well as they're going to elevate you to be able to have better conversations with either your users or the people of which that you work around. Which kinda gets you into when we're looking at the monitoring, the IT infrastructure, data ingestion, the platform of which your monitoring tool would be on, the capabilities. What are your use cases? What are you being defined for? Go back to your contracts and look at that. But something I wanted to bring up is look at your cyber insurance if you are somebody of which that is either providing a cyber checkbox, insurance for your users or your users are compliant because they have cyber insurance and they have obligations. And I want to be clear, when you can't just buy insurance and think that it's going to cover you, look at the contract. Some of the basic cyber insurance and things of which that you're going to need is enforce multi-factor authentication out of the gate. Regular patch management, can I prove it? Right? Deploy your detection and response. Are you going to be able to provide network monitoring and logging? Right? That's something that we need to know. Right there. I'm telling you in step 1 of baseline security controls, the one of the major things is network monitoring. And are you actually doing that? They will test it, right? So this is some of the things that you have to have. It's not just a checkbox. There's a reason why it's wanted because it gives you that awareness. You're able to see anomalies that go across there. So that is something that I want to stress. And then backups. You have to have backups. And are they tested? They're going to ask these questions. Maintain your email security, which that's outside of us, but you can absolutely do that, right? Like, but these are things that's baseline 1, folks. Like, this is the first things that they're expecting you as an obligation to be able to have that transaction for an insurance to be defined. And I have been asked so many times because people have been in situations in the past 12 months where they assumed things that were not accurate. They were like, "Well, we had monitoring set up, but when everything came down and the reputation was on the line, when they actually looked at it, it wasn't monitoring successfully, right? It wasn't meeting the first security. They weren't backing up. They had the ability to back up. They didn't have their SNMP configured. They weren't seeing anomalies. They were just doing up down. These are things that you have to understand because there's obligations and contractual obligations that have to be there because they are defined. All right. So it's 10:40. I'm still staying on track. Pretty stoked about that. I would like to say that on the 301, we're going to go in more of the automation as well as like some more things of which that we can do. But I want to say that Jace is also going to put out there for the 301 because we're going to really dive into more of a workflow situation after we have the information and kind of dive into some more of the alerting as well as some of the integrations that can give you that information and custom monitoring. So custom monitoring is very crucial, and you need to have the ability to custom monitor, to add SNMP sensors, OIDs, however you want to talk about them, to be able to actually get into some of those use cases that are outliers and or edge cases, but they are ones of which that you have to provide. So those are some of the ones that you need to do. So if you have some questions, hopefully I have the answers. If I don't, I will get back to you. And if for those that were on my 101, they can attest to that. I was in emails for 2 days trying to answer as many questions as I could and get help to where it needed to be helped, and as well as in LinkedIn. So please definitely, if you have any questions, let me know now, and we will be able to answer those for you. So the streams will be available, and they are available for the length of the platform of which that they are on. Oh, Jason's already talking about that. Do you have any monitoring or management questions as well? Because we would love to get into those. You guys are awesome. What data visualizations are available for dashboards and troubleshooting? Are there any more coming on the roadmap? Constantly. So, so the data visualizations of which that we have on our monitoring boards, you're able to look at the collector level, the device level. They're fully customizable to where you can do that. Something that we are working on right now is more visualizations such as KPIs and things like that, so that they can be more prominent. So, we are looking at use cases right now for, knock views. If you have any suggestions, I am putting my email in here because, like I said, we're actively looking at this. I am putting my email address in the chat window because I can get you to myself as well as the other PMs here so that we can have those conversations, so that we can have more of a knock view that we feel that is so any knock view is going to be very personal to somebody, but we're wanting to make sure that we're hitting the main ideas. I'll put it that way. So please let us know what some of those main ideas are, and we'll be able to help you. But definitely use your monitoring dashboards. They're there for a reason. You can go into so many details. Interface, if you're wanting to look at your critical interfaces for bandwidth and allocation. If you're wanting to put up a view that says that this switch controls databases behind it, set up that view, because then if you know if something's going down, you're able to see those statistics and that information about that service, right? Like that's a critical service that comes through different network devices. So you're able to set up a dashboard that's going to be able to follow that track. Use your topology report to help you to define what needs to be in that dashboard for these critical services. If you have different teams that are, that are in virtual VLANs and you want to be able to focus on that VLAN itself, create that dashboard based upon that VLAN. Use the tool to identify how you're running your networks and what you're being responsible for so you can see those. Let me see here. So, how do you leverage the CPU usage? We never could improve client infrastructure with RAM and CPU alerts. So, CPU usage, one of the things that I use on that, different types, right? So if it was on a firewall, right? So something that I like to use on firewalls is if the CPU is running high and the memory is running high, generally the ACLs, you could actually be working against you, right? You could also have buffer overload. These are conversations with that you need to see. You can also gather that information through scripts. You can grab that information from SNMP sensors to actually look at like how is it affecting it? Which one is getting hit the most? Which one has the most hits? things like that. Is there a first in, first out of which that we can adjust that can help bring those down? When we're talking about client side servers, things like that, what is running on there and how do I investigate that and see what's going across there? Has there been anything installed on there? Is there something that has been upgraded? Is there anything of which that's coming through there that I can relate to an increase of CPU usage? Forecast planning. If I'm noticing that it's continually going up, I need to first define like what is on that device so that I can understand how it's being used. Because say they put a new program on there, or if they're doing something, it's one of those things of is it storing data? Is it growing data? Is it letting go of memory? Is it doing things? These are all the ways that I use CPU usage to help me to improve the infrastructure for them. And a lot of the times you will see sometimes that people are putting this is some I mean, we're gonna see this a lot, right? Where people are putting apps and things on different, laptops, and if they are allowed to use different ones, you'll see gaming things of which that will grow. You will see connections on the backside. This is all awareness that's gonna increase your CPU and your RAM, and these are things that have you can start then going to your user accountability, right? Like, you can actually do your user acceptance policy of if they're using their device as they're supposed to. So that's something else that can go across there. Let's see. Ooh, will you add support for Google Chat as channel to alert to? I can definitely ask that. We have many different ways that we can actually use the API to work with things. So I can definitely ask that and get back to you to make sure if we are going to be able to add that or not. We keep adding. I don't know if you noticed that when I looked over there. Like we have quite a few ways to do different channels. So I don't see why that would be like a huge lift to be able to accomplish. I'm looking forward to further enhancements to topology. So am I. Things don't map well when you use edge networks and group interfaces on one device. So I hope that you're using our new one as well that just got released or enhancements. It's not new enhancements. We are looking at grouping interfaces and looking at all that information and filtering those so that you can actually see those. One of the things that we're looking at too is how we can make it a little bit easier for you to make this more manually if you're needing to do that at first too. So there's definitely different edge cases of which that we are looking at. Again, if you have any edge cases or use cases in general that you feel are not being fulfilled, send them to me. Like we're actively in it, as I'm sure some of you guys have seen. If you've looked at our release notes as well as just kind of use the product in there, you'll notice a lot of enhancements that are coming through there. We're trying to make things appear more easily. The color that somebody had also got on there, being able to filter the information easier. Definitely use the export. You should have an export so that you can have a comparative as well that goes across there. But if you have security matrix that you have to adhere to or security protocols that you need to have a backup of or an understanding to provide to security, use it, export it, allow them to have it so that they can understand it. And then you can also do a comparative, right? Like you'll be able to say like this was month one, this was month two, or if you do it quarterly, you're able to make adjustments and see it. Do we have any upcoming additional device listings for monitoring to better define objects? An example would be items such as door access control systems. Good question. Yes. So we're constantly looking at the MAC addresses as well as the information that we're gathering, as well as MIBs. So we're looking at the MIBs. We're also looking at MAC address identification improvements and things like that that are coming across. So you'll start seeing that as well, James. And then does Domotz support creating monitoring profiles for SNMP devices at the global level? For example, we monitor half a dozen or so metrics on APC smart UPSs. Can we create a profile? So I can get you in touch with Chris. We are working on things like this that would be able to do this at a global level. And you will be seeing this in Q4 that will be coming across here. Currently, some of the things that we're able to do is at the collector level. I know a lot of people understand that we're able to do things at the collector, but we are getting into this type of a profile. So you will definitely be seeing this information. Please pay attention to our release notes. I know there's a beta and things of which that has been out there as well. I know that me and Jace did a webinar on freemium and we had a beta that was out there for some of this. So, and as well as with RBAC. So definitely, we are working in the right direction for you, it seems like, that would come across there. All right. Will you add another level in Explorer like organization A, B, C, and then agent behind? Oh yeah, yeah. So we're already on that. So we're able to accumulate those and see them. You'll be able to have a little bit better usage with the multi-tenancy of which that you can actually create those and define those. Q4 is huge for Domotz. We've had a lot of things that, as you all know, that are foundationally that, we've been trying to enhance and get things through that are coming to fruition and actually moving towards where you guys are wanting to go. We're listening to you and we understand that, you need some management and some abilities there. So absolutely. Those are coming within. Let's see here. If I miss one, please call it out. Is there a way an alert of a new device on a network, it could be flagged again? Flagged its origin IP, or if it's using a VPN metrics that suggest an intruder. So yes, we do alert you if there is a new one of which that is onto your network. Where you can take it from there is by actually defining that one, right? So something that I've done, and you guys can correct me, but one thing that I've always done too is I have a script of which that I used to set up, right? Where it was like, what is the ports of which that something is on or could connect to, and I will shut things down like immediately, until I can define it, right? Like I need to be able to have control of a device that has allowed something new that is on my network that is suspect to me that I need to be aware of, and I need to isolate it immediately. So that generally tells me like where it's hanging off of, where it's at location wise, so that I can actually turn that off until I can get it defined. And then that also helps me to create a process. And when I say that is there's definitely a process that should be in place for something new that's within your network, right? And if it was not brought to your awareness that it was going to be on your network, that's a conversation. So it doesn't necessarily need to be there. And I can isolate it until I can validate that to come across there. Now, if they're using VPN and doing things, or if you want to VPN into it, obviously you can try what you know that you can VPN or remote into. But if it's not reacting to it, that's suspect as well. But it's one of those ones where I'm a control freak on networks, right? Like I used to always be called Des says the control freak because I was like, I would shut stuff down immediately and isolate it because it's my network. It's something in which that I am responsible for, and if something was not discussed with me or something outside of my purview, I definitely wanted to be aware of that. We alert you if something is new, but you need to be able to have those controls in place where you can shut it down, isolate it, validate it before it is an intruder that can cause a problem. And in today's world of, bandwidth is cheap. We have bandwidth, we have things available. And I've said this for years, it's when somebody comes online or has something, that's definitely something actionable that you should be aware of. But it's also something that it takes less time now to steal data, and it's something like, when I first started, DSL and different things, and we were trying to really get into the world, when we would define somebody or somebody coming online, it was a slow start. You'd start to see, your bandwidth creep up or multiple bandwidths to creep up if they were trying to do multi-stream. But it was one of those things where it was like, you could shut it down quick enough that would come in there. So for me, policies are very prudent to have on compliance for yourself. Put a policy in place that if something is new and is not supposed to be on your network, it's not automatically able to join the network. Like that's something that should be like a first layer to help you out on there and to bring awareness to you. Yes, profile is in beta. Awesome. Thanks for saying that. I thought so. Does Domotz already alert for double IP addresses? Yeah, we do the conflict as well as multi. If you're in your topology, you'll see the double IP address of which it's coming across there. So we're able to do that as well. Is there a way to refresh a switch port information? So you can go into your collector too, and you can kick off a new discovery. So anytime you do a discovery, it's going to actually be looking at your switches and gathering your information. If you have virtualization networks and you've already set up your VLAN information with your virtual NICs and you're able to see everything, you're going to be able to pull those as well. Something that I like to do with SNMP sensors though is I like to go a little bit further especially if you're doing switch port like mapping is what I'm assuming you're trying to do. Some of that information, I make sure that I have the correct SNMP OIDs of which that I'm gathering so that I can actually have that information used. We really need support for multi-site clients to enable sites to be arranged under a client rather than each site needing to be its own client. We're working on that. So yeah. We're definitely you should be able to see some of that information in Q4. That's some of the things that we're doing with I don't want to say the name exactly, but we have a way to customize that you'd be able to do a hierarchical shift with that would actually ties in with RBAC. The ability to discover and show VLANs would be huge. Also, VPNs where in a topology view, you could see sites connected to each other. Love that idea. Yes, definitely. I definitely see that. And the discovery and show VLANs is awesome. I agree. We're in discussions for the past 2 weeks now on opening that up so that we can actually have that a little bit easier at the start. And what he's talking about is like if you do have VLANs and like, or say you feel like your topology is not completely filled out, we're going to need them SNMP credentials as well as setting up those virtual NICs if you're on a Windows device. I mean, like there's different things like you're on Linux so that you can see those and then define them. And then which ones are you wanting to see and which ones are you wanting to pay attention to so that your topology and everything will map out. So we're looking at that from a holistic view of like how can we actually do that a little bit better. Can you make manual connections? Yes, you can. You can also look in our knowledge base. Our support is also there available that can help you. We're making that more UI present so that we're able to do that. So we can actually help you do that. And I love that. Where certain sites don't pad the LLDP and the CDP. And for those who don't know, those are discovery protocols of which that they're talking about. And a lot of people have those shut off, right? Like I'm just going to be honest, I don't leave them on in my networks unless I have used them before as just awareness that's coming across there. Don't even get me wrong with, but I also understand why people do not have discovery protocols on, and that's generally where you lean into like bridge mib, q mibs, things like that, art tables and things, so that you can actually see the connections. And if the monitoring tool is not able to see those, as you were stating, was that you would be able to manually do those connections. We have the same problem with the clients. Yep. Oh, well, I'm glad that you guys are chiming in on that because definitely I will. And Chris is the one that's doing that. I, well, thank you, Jones. I'm not looking for a job at this moment, but I will keep you in mind. But yeah, these are some of the things though, right? Like I'm glad you guys are getting excited about monitoring. And I apologize. Like I said, I've been a little sick, that I'm usually like way more interactive and animated, I feel like. But um I want you guys to understand your monitoring and management. I want to provide a platform where I can help you to be better because once you start using these tools too, again, like on the vertical side of it, when you start looking, if you're an MSP or if you are within your own vertical, ask questions. I mean, there's like plenty of people of which that are willing to help and would love to help, right? And when we understand our environments, we can definitely, right, Matt? I know I'm crazy. Dayquil is keeping me going right now. Um, but so when we understand the verticals, especially if you're a business, right? Like one of the things that I do in risk management as well is I have to understand the verticals. I have to understand the environments from a vendor's perspective as well, which tells me if they are doing the same transactions, they're having the same types of databases, they're having the same things. How can I compare networks to each other so that if one is running pristine, amazing, and having a great ability, and you're hardly having a problem, but you have somebody else in the same vertical that is constantly having issues or constantly, having leakage or doing or bandwidth issues or doing something, compare those two so that you can actually help them, right, to become better through your awareness. You have the keys to the castle. When you are monitoring several different environments, especially as an MSP, you are able to help your users to be better, to not even know you're there, right? Like that's the goal, right? It's like I want this network maintained, updated. I have service level agreements. I may have obligations in my contract. I have insurance. I have a reputation. I have all of this stuff, right? And they hand it over. That's when you need to actually start now using the data that's in front of you with your monitoring tools and helping people to be better as well as yourselves. You can start defining gaps within your organization. Like maybe you've like took on somebody who has a plethora mixed load of things of which that are coming across that you don't have technicians that are qualified to be able to react to those. Maybe you don't take that contract today. Maybe you take that contract today at a lower amount of which that you're waiting for the training to come across. Use the data to help you be better at business, because by you being better at business, even if you're internal IT, your IT shop is your business. Understand what you're using so that you can then transform that into efficiency and saving money, seeing problems before they happen, and forecast capacity planning. All of these conversations are better when you're doing them ahead of time and you're not on your heels because something has went wrong. Oh, I've seen this where in the topology, can we see if the SNMP is in use or need to be configured? Same question in the device tab. So that is something that's we're working on the topology wise. That's kind of coincides is what I'm saying. So you're going to be seeing some of this information that's going to come out, and it also runs into like the profile type behavior that some others were talking about earlier. So we're trying to help you to be able to better hone in on those SNMP credentials. And perfect valid use case that I got when I was working with a team from the last webinar was they were like, "Look, I got handed over this business because another MSP legally they were only in their contract supposed to give me the SNMP credentials. I don't know where they go." So they had about 1,200 devices that they were going to monitor, but they also had 30 different SNMP credentials. And they were like, I need to like pinpoint which ones of these go through. Those type of situations are the ones that we're working through right now with the help of the other PM, Chris, which is here, who's amazing, and Huda as well. We're all looking at these holistically so that we can better define these use cases. So if you have more use cases, again, please give them to me, email me, we're listening, and we are in a great foundational place now here to where it's like we can pull these levers and we can get granular and we can start presenting some of these visualizations of which that are here. But regardless of here, I want you all to be able to be in your network monitoring solutions. There's all kinds of tools which that are out there, and I understand that. And I want you to come here because I'm trying to be educational and not trying to do something like just to sell you on something. I want you to understand your monitoring tools as a whole. So these are definitely use cases and questions that you should be bringing up. And I'm so glad that you are, because this is the next step leveling of questioning, to be honest. Like I feel like we're all pacing together in a great way. So thank you very much. All right. So if we have Dimitri, yes, we're going to be. Do you have plans to free up SNMP template creation to users and not send them to Domotz support? Yes, we are going to be able to do that information. So you're going to be seeing a lot of things in Q4 that are going to be answering those questions, and it's going to be able to be provided within the product. So I wanted to say thank you all very much for coming today and joining me. I hope to see you back in the 301, because 301 is going to get more into automation and how do we use these insights and how are we being more proactive and how do I actually stay ahead of the curve and plan ahead in monitoring of which that's coming across there. So it's more about advanced practices as well as, like how do we actually correlate this to, business enabling and things like that. So I greatly appreciate you all the time. Please email me. I like I said, I have been having so much fun helping to alleviate some of the scare factor out of monitoring with people individually. And if you guys want to email me, hit me up on LinkedIn. It doesn't matter. I'm more than happy to help out any way of which that I can. And if I can't figure out the answer, I will definitely be able to find the answer for you. So thank you so much, and you guys have a wonderful day.